Hey, what's up, guys? Credit question of the day. So it's Friday, September 7th, 2018, and we got a really interesting one and a question that we get quite a bit here. So I'm going to read this off to you and then get it answered. So we have a debt collector has contacted me about an old debt. Do I have to pay it? Well, let's dig a little deeper into whether or not you have to pay it. So the first few things. Um, you should be paying debts. You should be paying old debts. That's the right thing to do. I get it, and there's some good karma behind that. But, and this is a big but, keep in mind debts travel. Okay, so you've defaulted on a debt. The debt has gone from one debt collector to another, to another, to another. Okay, these debt collectors have bought these debts for pennies on the dollar, on average somewhere around 11 cents on the dollar. So if you're going to be paying back a debt, the debt is fairly fresh. You probably shouldn't be paying back the entire sum. Really, you're just lining the pockets of the debt collector. Also, keep in mind if the original creditor has charged off the debt, they've taken some tax incentives for writing off that debt. They've charged it off as a partial or entire loss on their or against their income. That's another reason to avoid paying back 100% of the debt. It's just a lot of money. So a lot of times you can settle these debts. But getting back to the question, um, do I have to pay it? Well, it really depends. Okay. So a lot of you guys probably realize the credit report has a 7-year statute of limitations. So what does that mean? That means you default on the thing and it gets stick on your credit report for 7 years. And obviously, if nobody fights it, no one challenges it, it just kind of sits there and sort of lingers on your credit for the next 7 years, sometimes even longer. But by default, it should drop off after 7 years. But what a lot of people don't realize is the statutes of limitations for the collection of the debt is going to vary state by state. And I'll give you some cool examples. And I'll actually include a link in the description below to a cool article on thebalance.com that actually lists some of these statutes of limitations by states. So check this out. Alabama, for example, your basic credit reporting statutes of limitations is 7 years. But did you know that the collection of the debt statutes of limitations is only 6? Okay. You have Alaska. On a promissory note in Alaska, the statutes of limitations is only 3 years. If you're going to go into debt, probably a good place to go into debt is Alaska. You got a lot of protections there. Connecticut, also 6 years. Florida, 5 years. But then on the opposite end, you have some states that are just a lot tougher. You have Illinois on promissory notes, 10 years. Indiana, 10 years. Kentucky, move out of Kentucky, 15 years in Kentucky. Louisiana, 10 years. So even though that record could have dropped off of your credit report past the statutes of limitations, which is 7 years, you could have that item reporting another, or you could have that debt collector collecting on another 3 years, another 8 years in some states where they're calling and harassing you, taking you to court, and doing all the dirty stuff they shouldn't be doing. So to answer your question, do I have to pay it? It really depends on the state that you live in, how recent the debt is, okay, and really what the ramifications of not paying that debt are, okay. Also keep in mind, you have something called the debt validation process. Guys, you owed a debt to Macy's one day, okay. You bought something on a credit card, something happened, financial turmoil, you couldn't pay it. That debt then went to debt collector A. You couldn't pay them. Debt collector A sold it to debt collector B, debt collector C, and this thing's been traveling around, okay? Has the file been traveling around with them? Okay, you have the ability to request through a process called, or through something called a debt validation, which is per the Fair Debt Collections Practices Act, the validation of the debt. And essentially what you're doing is you're saying, hey, creditor, you're saying I owe you this debt. I'm not denying it, but it is my right to request that you show me proof that I do owe you this debt. Show me that you're licensed to collect the debt in my state. You're a debt collector, right? You got to have a business license. Show me that you're licensed to buy debt in my state, okay? Show me copies of records where I signed for the debt, the promissory note. You're asking them for the file, okay, which you have the right to do. Think of any debt that you're paying or any bill that you're paying. Usually there is a bill. So what are you doing? You're asking for the bill, okay? If a company cannot do that, it's probably not in your best interest to be sending them off a bunch of money, okay? So The question's pretty loaded. There's a lot of intricacies in whether or not you should or you should not be paying off a debt. One of the tips we give people when they're doing the credit repair process is, hey, we want you to pay off debt. It's a good thing. It affects your credit in a positive way, but maybe hang tight. Wait 30, 60, 90 days. See which items are validated and which items are not before you start paying off the debt. So if you're going to be doing the right thing, you're doing it with the right company and you're not blowing through a bunch of cash. So guys, that is your credit minute. Unfortunately, we're 4 minutes over the credit minute. It's a credit 5 minutes. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed, click subscribe. It should be up here or down here, somewhere on YouTube or Vimeo, depending on where you're watching this, or Facebook. And follow us every day. We're going to be sending you a credit minute. And feel free to email me questions at Nick, N-I-K, at keycreditrepair.com. I'd love to answer them, whether it's replying to your email or just sending you a short video like this. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.